Richard Ellis, obviously a leader in the industry, but we're going to be able to talk technology with Stuart Appley today, Managing Director. How are you? Good to see you. Come toward me so we can both be in frame. Great to see you again.
Nice meeting you.
What's new? What is exciting?
There's so much that's exciting. Just having virtual reality, artificial intelligence, two of the biggest things that are going on right now, and everybody's seen everybody engage, robotics, the interest and the excitement, and just the conversations are things that really haven't happened in the past that now we're really seeing.
When you think back to yourself 10 years ago, envisioning 2016, what would be the thing that you're seeing today that you probably would have been most excited, most surprised to have seen? And what's the thing you're seeing today that you go, I wouldn't have been able to believe that was what was going on?
I think just, the whole talk about autonomous cars, right? Self-driving cars. So that really does impact commercial real estate. There is, something will happen on there. And we're getting so close to reality, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5, I'm not really sure. But 10 years ago, would any of us really thought that we were this close to really happening?
What kind of impact do you foresee it having on commercial real estate? In what ways do you imagine that might begin to affect us?
Yeah, well, Spencer Levy, gave a keynote yesterday, and he touched on it a little bit. But really, it's about people. How will space be used? Are people going to go to suburban now instead of, do they need to go down to downtown offices like they used to? Is the commute going to be different? Will parking lots, do we need parking lots now? And so what will that space be turned into? How about senior housing? People, older generation want to get out, need a place to go to, but a lot of it has to do with driving also. They can't drive, so they need to be more independent. Will that help? Will that change senior housing? So there's so many aspects and probably pieces that we can't even think about.
Right.
But really, real estate, commercial real estate, will be affected by many of those points.
How does what you do specifically impact CBRE?
So I work with the occupier clients in the Western region. And so my job is to really be a technology leader with all the clients, working with their needs and understanding them, talking about their technology platform, what makes sense to them as part of CBRE's outsourcing. So I'm looking at what we do today, but then trying to have an eye in the future, and that's where CRE Tech and 4.0 comes in. And so having that balance of the two and really relaying that back to CBRE, and also having an eye on what we can look for in the future, whether it's BI, whether it's automation, anything around new technologies is just something to keep an eye on.
What satisfies you most about what you do?
Making clients successful. And that's the end goal. It's so many of them are struggling with so many different technologies as everybody else is. It's nothing different in the corporate world, but really has seen them be automated, seen them leverage technology for their benefit, and leverage real estate into total cost of ownership that's impactful for the company, and being successful. And so really having those the real estate arms of those companies be successful, looked well upon by their companies, and therefore CBRE looked well upon.
Is there a particular example of a company that you were able to, with CBRE, come in and really help them, find their footing and find their voice in this industry?
Well, I think, so I've been there 3 months now, so I'm actually walking right into the middle of a lot of those.
Sure.
I think one thing, for example, is McKesson, which is a client that, I can talk about. They totally changing their whole real estate landscape, whether it's facilities management, whether it's space planning, lease administration, finance, visitor. There was something talked about yesterday about the experience of an employee and what happens when you want to make reservation and wayfinding and the whole collaboration space. And so that's an example of a company or client that is embracing all of that. And they have a new real estate leader that came in about 1.5 years ago, and he's changing the whole culture. And so that's been, that's a good example of how we work with them. And with any technology, it's hard to implement. And how do you do that correctly and get it done on time? So that's something that's spending a lot of time with at the moment.
Someone who can't be here at the show this year, they're watching from home and they really wish someone would say, hey, what are the trends I most need to pay attention to? I'm a real estate investor. I have a company. I'm making technology decisions. what are the basics that I need to make sure are covered? What would you say, based on the trends and ideas coming out of this year's conference, must they pay attention to?
Well, I think, it's not a new trend, but I think it's getting more visibility every day is data analytics, right? And so that kind of relates to the new technologies coming up, whether it's IoT, energy, smart buildings, autonomous vehicles, anything, but then really applying that to their business. And it's become harder because there's so much more data. With big data, it's so many more edge devices, whether it's at the building or it's maybe a street light as far as a city, a car. So it's getting more complex, but it's more important. And that's an example of where we're seeing with all our clients that they struggle, just as everybody else does, in getting their arms around it, understanding the data, making it impactful and actionable. And so I think, so there's been a lot of talk about it here today. There's a lot of companies that focus on that and making data actionable. And I think that's something that every company needs to make sure that they are doing a good job of and really understand. So it's not just about data,
Right.
It's about information.
How does security play into this?
I mean, it's critical. Obviously, it's gotten more critical over the years, and that's a whole new frontier with IoT and a lot of things being built today. In the past, had no concept of it.
Right.
Look at who was it? Target, I think. With the HVAC, and it's a perfect example. And that is live today everywhere. So I think people need to really understand what's automated, what's connected to the internet, make sure they've got oversight into that, who their vendors are, and make sure that they don't just assume everything is going okay.
What excites you the most about working at a company like CBRE?
There's so much going on. They touch everything. So it's not just the corporate real estate, it's commercial real estate, it's asset strategy. And I think it really is getting deep. It's a great bunch of people. Large organization. They have their mind right, where they really are entrepreneurial and making sure that they do right by the client. There's no one size fits all, and ensuring that their clients are happy. I think that's their mantra, and that's exciting.
If you had one message that you could send to the industry, what would it be?
Embrace technology. People say that, we're a real estate company, we're not a technology company. That they should be rethinking that. Every company today really should be a technology company in the background. Doesn't matter what you do, and real estate's a perfect example. And I've heard this by a few others. We're a real estate company, not technology company. You shouldn't be looking at it that way. Technology, we all live it, breathe it. This, perfect example here. And if the older generation or generations that don't understand that, they need to understand that, because they will be disrupted before they realize it if they don't get it.
That's right. It's funny, we just had VTS up here talking about working with Heinz, which is a very old school company, and they are embracing new tech at a really quick clip. What are some of the technologies that you see available that are low-hanging fruit, kind of gateway drugs to deeper technology?
Probably customer relationship is a good one.
Yeah.
Whatever you can do, get off spreadsheets. So that can go into really anything, right?
Sure.
But I'd say customer relationship is a really good one. Making sure that you understand who your customers are, you have a good idea of that. You've got some, it's not just everyone. All your leasing agents or sales agents have it on their own spreadsheets that really understand that. So that's a low-hanging fruit, I would think. Even and then on the accounting and finance side too, making sure there's one source of truth in your technology, in your application stack, and people should really be focusing on that just as much as anything else.
Let's say you and I are talking, it's a year from today, we're at RealCom 2017. What do you think is going to be the headline, the major theme when we're talking then?
I think artificial intelligence will be a bigger theme than it is today. That's something that just is growing even more. We talked about the autonomous cars and the robots that we saw just down below. It came from a session right before this. I don't know. Something tells me I think it's ripe for really, how do you make that relevant in real estate? Where does that really happen? So I think the conversations will be greater next year on that than they are today.
Fantastic. Anything else that we want to just share and make sure that our audience knows about what's going on at CBRE or in trends in technology?
I think just again embracing technology. Don't be afraid of it. You know, the old, real estate is such an old school industry and more relationship building, and I think people really need to take a step back, rethink that, and understand and think about how technology can improve their NOI and their clients, tenants, and investors' performance.
Terrific. Mark, thank you so much.
Great.
Mark
Nice-
Appley,
yeah.
CBRE, giving us the lowdown on what one of the industry leaders thinks the trends are in technology, security.